Thinning hair and brittle nails don't have to be part of your aging. In the blue zones of the world, women maintain thick, shiny, vibrant hair well into their 90s. The secret isn't a miraculous shampoo or a trendy vitamin being sold to you on social media. It lies in a specific mineral, hidden inside a food that women in Okinawa consume almost every single day of their lives. If your hair is falling out more than usual, if your nails snap just from looking at them, you need to stay until the end of this video, because what you're about to discover is going to completely change how you understand the health of your hair. We're talking about Okinawa, a small island in southern Japan that for decades has been recognized as the place with the highest concentration of centenarians in the world. Women there don't just live longer, they live better, with more energy, more mobility, and yes, with better hair and skin than many women decades younger in Western countries. This is not coincidence. It's biology, and biology has very clear answers when you know where to look. Before we talk about Okinawa, we need to understand what is actually happening when hair starts to fall out more than usual, or when nails become fragile and bend with ease. Both hair and nails are made up primarily of a protein called keratin. Keratin is not just any ordinary protein, it's a fibrous, extremely resistant protein that forms compact, organized structures. What determines whether your keratin is strong or weak isn't just how much protein you eat, but whether your body has the right tools to build that protein correctly. Imagine you want to build a house. You can have all the bricks in the world, but if you have no cement, the walls will collapse. Keratin works the same way. Amino acids are the bricks, but minerals are the cement. And there are two minerals in particular that most women in the West consume in absolutely insufficient amounts: zinc and iodine. Zinc is essential for keratin synthesis. It participates directly in the production of the proteins that form each strand of hair. When there is a zinc deficiency, the hair follicle, which is the small structure in your scalp where each hair is born, begins to fail. The hair it produces becomes thinner, weaker, and eventually the follicle enters a state of premature rest. The result is exactly what many women experience and describe as, "My hair just doesn't grow the way it used to," or it comes out in handfuls in the shower. Nails tell the same story. A healthy nail has layers of keratin perfectly organized, almost like the pages of a neatly stacked book. When zinc is lacking, those layers lose cohesion. Nails turn white, develop spots, peel in layers, and bend before breaking. If you recognize any of these symptoms in yourself, it's very likely that zinc is part of the conversation you need to have with your body. Iodine, on the other hand, acts in a different but equally fundamental way. Iodine is the primary nutrient your thyroid needs to function. And here comes something very few people connect. The thyroid gland directly regulates the speed at which your hair follicles produce hair. When the thyroid works slowly, the entire hair cycle slows down. Hair that should normally be actively growing for years begins entering the shedding phase much earlier. It's one of the most common symptoms of hypothyroidism, even subclinical, and millions of women experience it with no idea that their thyroid is involved. In Okinawa, women have significantly lower rates of thyroid disease than in other developed countries. It's not exclusively genetics, it's what they eat. If you had to identify a single food that distinguishes the traditional diet of Okinawa from the rest of the world, that food would be soy, and in particular, tofu. Women in Okinawa eat tofu practically every day, not as something occasional or trendy, as an inseparable part of their food culture, just like rice or green tea. And this matters for several reasons that go far beyond what most people know about soy. First, soy is the most complete source of plant protein that exists in nature. It contains all essential amino acids, including cysteine and methionine, which are the sulfur-containing amino acids directly involved in the construction of keratin. When your body has access to these amino acids in adequate amounts, it can manufacture high-quality keratin, the kind that produces shiny hair and nails that don't break. Second, tofu in Okinawa is not prepared the same way as in the West. The traditional Okinawan tofu, known as shimadofu, is firmer and denser than most tofus found in Western supermarkets. It's made with nigari, the natural coagulant derived from seawater, and this process introduces marine minerals into the tofu during manufacturing. This means Okinawan tofu doesn't just provide protein, It also delivers traces of ocean minerals, including iodine and magnesium. Third, soy contains isoflavones, compounds that have a very interesting relationship with female hair. Soy isoflavones, especially genistein and daidzein, can gently modulate the activity of certain hormones in the body. In postmenopausal women, where the drop in estrogen directly contributes to hair thinning, these isoflavones offer a gentle hormonal support that helps keep the follicle growth cycle active for longer. Studies in Japanese populations show a clear correlation between regular consumption of soy isoflavones and hair density in women over 60. Let's return to zinc, because it deserves the world's full attention. Zinc is one of the most studied minerals in relation to hair health, and the results of that research are consistent and compelling. Zinc deficiency is directly linked to hair loss, and correcting that deficiency reverses the process in most cases. Women in Okinawa obtain zinc from sources that in the West practically don't exist in the daily diet. Miso, the fermented soybean paste, is one of the most widely consumed foods in Okinawa and is an extraordinary source of bioavailable zinc. Fermentation is key here because during that process, the phytates in soy, which are compounds that normally block zinc absorption, break down. This means the zinc in fermented miso is absorbed far more efficiently than zinc from other non-fermented plant sources. Edamame, the tender soybean pods that women in Okinawa eat as a regular snack, also provide zinc along with protein. Seafood, especially small clams, and the various types of shellfish from the South China Sea that form part of local cuisine, are possibly the most concentrated source of zinc in their diet. A small portion of oysters, for example, can contain more zinc than many people in the West consume in an entire week. Now compare that to the average Western diet, high in processed foods, low in seafood, with minimal consumption of fermented foods, and with an eating pattern that prioritizes calories over nutritional density. The result is a population chronically deficient in zinc, and this is reflected in the state of the hair and nails of millions of people. One additional detail about zinc: it interacts directly with vitamin A and copper to regulate the hair follicle cycle. If you only supplement zinc without addressing these cofactors, the results will be limited. In the Okinawan diet, these nutrients coexist naturally in the foods they consume. Nature designed nutrients to work together, and whole foods deliver them in the correct proportions in a way that no isolated supplement can fully replicate. Iodine is perhaps the most underestimated nutrient in the conversation about hair health, and this is a serious mistake. Seaweed is the most iodine-rich food that exists on the planet, and women in Okinawa have consumed it regularly since childhood. Kombu, wakame, hijiki. These seaweeds are not a supplement in their diet. They are everyday ingredients that appear in soups, salads, stews, and broths. A small amount of kombu cooking with beans or in a broth already introduces a significant dose of iodine that the thyroid can use directly. When the thyroid has enough iodine, it produces its hormones in optimal quantities. Thyroid hormones, especially T3 and T4, regulate the metabolic rate of virtually every cell in the body, including the cells of the hair follicle. A well-nourished follicle, in a favorable hormonal environment, produces hair during longer cycles and with thicker fibers. A follicle in an environment of hypothyroidism, even mild, produces thin, dull hair and eventually enters the shedding phase prematurely. What the Okinawan diet does is keep the thyroid in optimal condition through a constant and natural supply of iodine throughout a lifetime. Not in the form of high-dose supplements that can be dangerous, but in moderate, consistent amounts obtained from food in the way the human body evolved to receive them. There's another interesting element here: selenium. Selenium is necessary to convert the thyroid hormone T4 into its active form T3. The tofu and seafood that form part of the Okinawan diet also provide selenium in adequate amounts. Once again, all the nutrients working together like pieces of a system, not as isolated ingredients. There is a widely held myth that says plant protein is inferior to animal protein for building tissues like hair and nails. This idea, which has roots in last century's science, has been extensively revisited and revised in recent decades. Soy protein, in particular, is a notable exception among plant proteins because its amino acid profile is complete and comparable to that of animal protein. Keratin is built primarily with amino acids, such as cysteine, glycine, proline, and glutamine. Soy contains all of these amino acids in adequate proportions. The key, however, lies in the total amount of protein consumed and in the bioavailability of those amino acids. Women in Okinawa consume 2 to 3 servings of soy products per day: tofu in the morning, miso at lunch, edamame as an afternoon snack. This guarantees a constant supply of the building blocks the hair follicle needs to continuously manufacture keratin. When protein intake falls below minimum requirements, the body enters a prioritization mode. It uses the available amino acids for vital functions like enzyme synthesis and maintenance of internal tissues, and hair and nails, which are not vital for immediate survival, end up at the bottom of the list. The result is exactly what you describe when you say your hair looks dead or lifeless. The typical Western diet is not necessarily low in total protein, but it is inconsistent. A lot of protein in one meal, very little in the others. The body cannot store amino acids the same way it stores fat or glucose. It needs a regular and distributed supply throughout the day. The structure of the Okinawan diet, with small amounts of high-quality protein at each meal, naturally satisfies this requirement. The real secret of Okinawan women is not a magical food or a single mineral. It's synergy. Zinc, iodine, and soy proteins working together day after day, year after year. Entire decades of consistent nutrition. Zinc ensures that hair follicles can synthesize keratin efficiently and that the growth cycle is not prematurely interrupted. Iodine keeps the thyroid functioning in optimal conditions, ensuring that the hormonal signal activating hair growth is always present. Soy proteins provide the building material, the amino acids that become real keratin, the hair and nail you can see and touch. When one of these elements fails, the other two cannot fully compensate. You can eat all the protein in the world, but if your thyroid is sluggish from lack of iodine, hair growth will be suboptimal. You can have a perfect thyroid, but if you don't consume enough zinc, the follicles can't properly use the thyroid signals. Hair and nail health is a reflection of systemic health, and systemic health depends on a complete nutritional ecosystem. You don't need to emigrate to Japan to benefit from this dietary pattern. What you need is to understand the principles and apply them progressively in your everyday eating. The first step is to introduce tofu or tempeh at least 4 times a week. It doesn't need to be the star of the plate. It can be sautéed tofu with vegetables, crumbled tempeh in a sauce, or edamame as an afternoon snack. What matters is regularity. Consistency over time is what generates real results. The second step is to incorporate miso, which you can easily find in natural food stores or Asian grocery stores. A simple miso soup made with hot water, miso paste, and a piece of wakame seaweed takes no more than 3 minutes and gives you bioavailable zinc, iodine, protein, and probiotics in a single cup. The third step is to stop being afraid of seaweed. Hydrated wakame has a very mild flavor and practically no invasive texture. You can add it to any salad, soup, or stew. Kombu can be used to make vegetable broths with extraordinary mineral richness. You don't need to eat them daily in large quantities. Small, consistent amounts are enough to maintain good iodine status. The fourth step, and perhaps the most important, is to honestly evaluate your total protein intake throughout the day. Many women, especially after 50, eat insufficient amounts of protein without realizing it, particularly if they reduce meat without compensating with other sources. The general recommendation for older women is around 1-2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, and for those experiencing hair loss or weak nails, some research suggests additional benefits are observed, moving closer to 1.5 grams per kilogram. Studies conducted in long-lived populations in Japan have consistently shown that women who maintain a diet high in soy proteins, seaweed, and fermented foods present significantly better hair health indicators compared to control groups with more westernized diets. This includes greater hair density measured by trichoscopy, a lower rate of thinning in hair shaft diameter with age, and lower incidence of nail dystrophies, which is the medical term for structural problems of the nails. Researchers at the University of Tokyo have documented that centenarian women in Okinawa present significantly higher serum zinc levels than women of the same age in regions of Japan with more westernized diets. This data is revealing because serum zinc is exactly the biomarker that predicts the quality of keratin the body can produce. Science is never perfect, and there is always individual variation, but the patterns are consistent enough to make informed dietary decisions based on them. There is a widely spread narrative in the West that says thinning hair, brittle nails, and dull skin are inevitable consequences of aging. The women of Okinawa challenge that narrative with their very existence. Not through magic, not through superior genetics, but through decades of a different relationship with food. They don't think of tofu as a functional food or as something they eat for its hair benefits. They eat it because it's part of their culture, their history, their table. And that is precisely the kind of relationship with food that generates long-term results. Not the strategic and anxious consumption of superfoods, but the calm and consistent integration of nourishing foods into the daily rhythm of life. Zinc, iodine, and soy proteins are not a three-step protocol. They are part of a way of living that honors the body with patience and regularity. And that, more than any specific ingredient, is perhaps the true secret of the women of Okinawa. Your hair and nails are living tissues that respond to the nutritional environment you provide them. Start changing that environment today with small, consistent steps, and within a few months you'll find that the body has a remarkable capacity to respond when you give it what it truly